Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am super excited. I have my dear soul sister here with me today. Welcome back, Cindy. Thank you for sharing this space with me. Um, Such a delight to have you here. So, welcome, everyone. This is going to be a follow-up or part two, and maybe the beginning of many more. Who knows? um, I was given in advance the title of this one is called The Great Extraction Has Begun.
It's
uh,
great. I love it.
and I was like, oh, so the backstory is obviously, if you haven't already seen the first video that Cindy and I have done, please go back and watch it. It really sets the tone for some of the topics and the sharings that we're going to dive into today via this video. And one of the main topics that we'll be talking in and around is about these matrix pods and the great extraction that's taking place in real time. Cindy's been pivotal in bringing through some of this information. That's how it really all began. So just such a extension of gratitude for the work that you've tapped into and that we've witnessed and seen together, and how it's sort of unfolded in the ways that it has. Now, in the last couple of weeks, and I had been back and forth feeling that there was perhaps a video brewing, but not knowing what or why. This always happens.
So true. Yeah.
And then I was in the middle of a session that came up around these topics, and immediately I was told, contact Cindy now. You must do here's the title. This is the date. So here we are. So both of our humans are like, really? Okay,
Yeah,
we're not entirely sure what's going to come through, but they're
exactly.
generally when the most important stuff comes through. So we will be opening up a discussion around this, but I would like to preface and just say hold to the end, and there will be timestamps at the end. Actually going to do a guided process of an introduction to your own like matrix pod extraction energy technique. And Cindy and I are thinking about hosting something, so keep updated with what we do and share as a follow through, but definitely tune into the end of this as I'll do a quick, probably a 10-minute guided process that will kind of start the how to unhook from the energetic systems that we've all been so cleverly connected
Wrapped
in.
into, yeah. Woven
But
into, really.
yeah, exactly. So welcome, Cindy. Thank you for being. I almost like want to reach out and give you a
I
hug.
know. I know. Thanks for having me again. And yeah, it's always so good. We have these discussions and all these little bits and pieces just come together, right? So, um, and yeah, before I had my experience where I had my extraction, like I didn't. And then you and I started talking about it. I didn't have anybody to talk to about it either, right? Like I'm like, I've seen this, but what's going on? I don't know what's happening. So yeah, it's been great to be able to
Yeah,
us to be able to connect and then, and then the two of us together, more just keeps coming online. So yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy that we get to talk
yeah.
about this
I
and
think it's so timely and it's so important because exactly
yeah,
what you said. Who do you go to and talk to about these things?
yeah, yeah,
Um, and I was thinking about this before. I was like, the Matrix pod or pods in general have been in my awareness for, I don't know, years and years, but it never came into hyper focus in the ways that is or has been over the last 12 months, and especially now. So there is something quite monumental happening in the collective that is liberating us all. And I think that's the duality that we're witnessing is, with all the tension and all the craziness rising, I think it's actually a direct result of the liberation that's taking place. Um,
yeah. I agree with you 100%. And because the last time that we did this and we talked, it was you know, and you mentioned it in your video that you just posted also that, there's been the slow unraveling of people being released. And if
oh,
it, yeah, and like, it came to when we talked about it, it was kind of like, okay, well, if it happened all at once, it would be so chaotic. But as yeah, it's kind of like a symbiotic nature, right? More people are becoming aware and being released, and there's more chaos and dismantling of what is happening in the world. So it's as this happens, as one rises, this also rises because there's a scramble as that power gets lessened,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, it's
You
interesting to observe.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm like holding on the edge of my seat.
I know. Well, and then just talking to people that just their level of awareness now of what is false structures and what is actual structures is I'm like, I don't think you would have talked like this a year ago, sort of thing. People are just coming, yes, so much online. So
Yeah,
it's
you I mean, it's so many things come to mind when you say that, but like just recently here, and I don't want to get political, but obviously addressing what is happening, right? Here in my country, like in Australia and in the US, and I think in the UK, I don't know about in Canada, but there was like a broadcast announcement from the president or the prime minister about the fuel issue, right?
right.
And I'll be completely honest, I'm really not paying attention
Yeah,
to to what's going on until I like, if I have to go out and buy fuel, I'm like, oh,
right,
okay, right.
right.
But it somehow came into my awareness. I must have been scrolling on Facebook or something. And so I just out of curiosity, I like clicked on, I was like, oh, what's he gonna say? And I watched our prime minister do his little thing. I only watched a snippet. I didn't even watch the whole thing, but I watched it and I was like, that is not real. That's got to be CGI or something. Like it just
No
felt so
way.
artificial. Yeah.
No way. Holy. And I'm like you, I avoid that stuff. I can't even it doesn't even register for me like anything political. It just feels all so false. And I don't pay enough attention to know if it's CGI. You know what I mean? Or create. I'm like, I just can't even, it just doesn't register with me. It's
Yeah. And I think
and
it's,
especially
sorry,
no,
continue.
no. I was just gonna because also part of the reason there's that flash of fear, always that comes up in me too. You start to hear, and I'm like, oh no, 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 no. Like that's not falling into that trap. So it's that narrative too. That's really being, I mean, it's always been disseminated, but I guess it's the realization that, oh, they want me to feel afraid. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Perfectly said. And it's like, I a lot I maybe I'll just use this opportunity now because so many people have asked me what my opinion is of what's happening in the world. And I'm just like,
uh,
I mean, my guidance has really, really been about um, the highest the light like our highest responsibility right now is to work on doing our own clearing, being our
right,
best version, constructing the new reality that's already in
right.
progress. And you know what I mean? Like work with our create essence. And I think that I truly believe that it's a flash in the pan of what's transpiring unless enough people get caught in the web of
Yeah,
the co-creative consciousness allowing it to draw out. I felt that way around the previous 6 year ago episode.
yes,
And I was like, oh, it's a flash in the pan. And it wasn't. And I think it wasn't because so many people needed that as a catalyst to create big changes. But I was like, we're 6 years on now. Like, I think there's enough people that are clued on enough, come into themselves. And I think, as you were saying, there's a symbiotic, like, unplugging from the matrix. It's actually disseminating the power and the control, and all those mechanisms are just dying off. So it's kind of like oh, let's just hold
yeah,
on.
yeah,
What can we
yeah,
do to like
yeah, exactly. Well, and I saw something interesting on social media about the United States president, and we don't need to say his name or anything, but there's about different timeline versions where there's a version where he's evil and where there's a version where he's doing good, and stuff. And that was a really interesting perspective to me in the fact that, oh, yeah, I can observe it, but I get to pick what the narrative is around it, right? And instead of being sucked into that narrative of whatever perspective you're on at that time.
I've been watching him with curiosity for years because I don't often talk about this, but he often comes in my dreams and has done since
Oh,
early
oh,
2016. And so I've always been aware that there are various timeline versions of him or clone
okay,
versions of him, maybe both.
right.
Because there definitely is a version that wants to, as he came to me in a dream in 2016, the week he became not inaugurated, but like um, president, he literally came to me in a swamp dream and he said, "We got to clean this shit up."
No way.
Yeah, yeah,
No way. Holy. Make the swamp great again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Him and I were picking up papers in a swamp, and he looked at me. He's like, "We're gonna clean this shit up." Like
Oh,
you can't make that up because it was before it became a phrase of draining the swamp kind of thing. But so I've always seen that version of him, but I don't denounce that there are other versions of him that maybe aren't so great.
yeah.
But it's like
Yeah.
depends on the timeline. Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, and then it's interesting that it's such a polarizing character because how do you cause dissension is by causing polarization between two sides, right? So
yeah,
yeah, it just feels like some days to me it's like, oh, it's just a puppet show, you know?
yeah.
Oh,
And I think him, like many others, are playing really important roles because
yes.
they're either doing good behind the scenes, if that is a timeline, which I believe it is, and the other timeline they're absolutely creating chaos. And look, I want to bring in some humility because I don't agree with war
Yeah.
and innocent
Yeah.
people being, that to me is not acceptable on any level at all. Casualty,
Yeah.
casualties who are um but yeah, the friction that he creates in the triggering is, it really is about the inner mirror work right now. And it's like, so it's, how did we get here? But anyway, it's
I don't
obviously
know.
fun.
I don't
Like,
know. Probably way off topic.
but anyway, we'll come back to, but maybe it is all part of,
Yeah.
actually, I feel like we're touching on some really, okay. I'm like, how do we, I'm gonna share this because I've never shared this before, but I think it ties and links right back in. When I had that experience 2 years ago where I sort of burst through the threshold and kind of lived what I deem the new reality in
Yeah.
physical real time, it's very hard to put into words because it's so beyond our comprehension. But at that time, I was shown how the end of the bad movie was going to roll out. And so far, it's pretty much followed the script. I wouldn't say verbatim, but I can pretty much, oh, yep, okay, that's where we're at. Okay, cool, yep.
Okay.
Mhm,
Wow.
mhm.
Wow.
And I have always said prior to that experience for years, yeah, we can like round up the bat. A lot of people want blood, right? Like people wake up and they hear about what has happened to children or and they get really angry and rightfully so. I mean, it's horrific what takes place on this planet and has been.
Absolutely.
But I've always said, I mean, you can round up, person X, Y, Z, blah blah E, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can round up all those people and do what take them to that. I'm trying to not use the keywords on you, Joe. I all the time. Never. I think everyone follows the gist. But I was like, unless you clean up the energy
Yeah.
that controls them, like
Yeah.
that's actually what we're dealing with here is like people who've been taken over by these like grotesque energies. It's like we've got to
Right.
clean through the energetics and then take otherwise, if you take all the people out, they're just going to find more hosts.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I agree.
Um, so
Well, Yeah. And I mean, there's a certain amount of psychological warfare and just the ways the information was disseminated too, and that's very triggering and causes so much trauma. So
Yeah,
um it runs so on such a deep psychological level, right? That triggers us and hits us and hurts us and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, like you say, that energy is still going to exist, whether the players are in those roles or if it's, they'll just find different people to fill those roles. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah. So part of the takedown or the wrap up, let's call it the great wrap up
Yeah,
that I
I
was
like that.
privy to a couple of years ago, I saw, you could say, the head beings of, when we talk about attachments and entities and stuff like that, I think we're dealing for the most part when we do clearings. I know you do them, I do them, when people have attachments and things like that. We're dealing with pretty low grade beings in comparison to the where they come from. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
As part of what I'm writing about in my book is what I call the heads. I call them the heads because they're the distributors, if you will, of um and what I was being shown was how they're directly connected to these pods and the looshing of the
Okay.
energy. So that's where I'm kind of coming back around is I was seeing this kind of wrapping up and arresting of the people who have been, um, you know, oh, the words just popped out of my head, who've been committing crimes against humanity,
Yeah.
that being which I think we're in that phase right now, and we probably have been for a while, but it's like becoming more publicly visible in the 3D realm. Um, but when I was kind of working at it from the energetic level years ago, and what I was witnessing was the energies that have been controlling them being taken out, like those
Okay.
big players being taken out. And that was when I was following those threads energetically through, that's when I came across these pods. And I was like, but
Okay.
these were the off-world ones because I followed it, and I was like, oh, I'm on a ship, and what's going on this ship? And then I'm
Okay.
like looking around, going like, every person I know is in here,
Right.
and I just like, when you see something you can't unsee it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my
I do.
god, oh my god,
Okay.
and that's when I saw that it's that orbs of consciousness, specifically in colors of gold or yellow, yeah, stomach,
Personal power. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Creation energy. Yeah.
Yeah, pink, like that
Heart
pink that
energy.
is what I see that sits is the portal to the other realms and
Yeah.
the new reality. And that connects directly into our heart and our empathy and our emotional body, if you will.
Right.
And I was like, oh, we've really been in this in this reality. We've taken our most precious commodity, if you will, our creativity, our personal, all of that, and it's been hooked into creating the artificial reality.
Right.
And that's sort of
Right.
the bigger picture. If people, I don't think I've ever painted it in the bigger picture
Yeah.
things. And I thought maybe that's a good starting point. I didn't even have any plans to share any of that, but um, that
Well,
was
oh, well, it's interesting for you is because as you're talking about that, I'm like, well, so how does that get dismantled? And at first my brain is top down, but then I'm being shown, well, it's these pods that are holding that structure up, right? So as people start to remove, that is what collapses the structure. So it's an inside job,
it's
really.
an inside job, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Because
Uh-huh.
in my warrior-esque nature, when I can flick into that mode, when I see that, I'm like, right, I'm gonna I'm
Hmm.
gonna get in there, put my boots on and put my gloves on, and but no, like every person has their own responsibility.
Yeah, yeah,
It can't be
yeah.
done. yes, we can help facilitate for people
Hmm.
for sure.
Hmm.
Even I was just saying, completely transparent, off recording. I was saying to Cindy, I was talking about something I've been working through myself. I'm like, I need help with this one. Like I
Oh yeah.
can't like we all need help sometimes. And but that's the thing. It's like the more we take back our power, become aware of these things, unhook from them, the more of our own consciousness we get back, the more we remember and wake into who we truly are and work with that co-creative. That is the energy that creates everything that we are. Essentially, it's what we are
Yeah.
that we haven't had access to for most of us, most of our lives.
Well, and the beauty of us, the people that are aware that, we're being released from these pods it's that it is that collective creative energy that allows for the next person to be able to actually release their consciousness. So it's such a it's a really big thing. It's a small thing, but it's a really big thing. Like,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
When
Oh,
did do you remember roughly when you first came into your awareness? Like your extraction, your first, oh, I'll say first extraction process because we're going to go into the multi-level.
yeah, yeah. It was last year sometime. I'm thinking it was spring. I'd become aware of pods like the kind of the fall before that, and more about different energies being held in pods. And just through my meditation, I started to see different structures and cave-like places, Quonset like big building places where stacks and stacks. Well, not even stacks and stacks. I saw them more matrix like
Yeah.
hanging from the roof. And as a living, like the, sorry, I'm trying to find my words here. Just, it's the whole pod is living. That's how I started to see it, not just the energy inside the pod, but a whole living pod. And so I was in meditation and it was sometime last spring. So I was only getting these awarenesses, hadn't done any research on it, hadn't looked into it, knew nothing about it. And in my meditation, me and actually a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, were both released from these pods. Like it was like the bottom opened up and we fell down. And there was almost, you know, there wasn't goo around us, but I know where the structure that we were released from was a living, breathing entity.
Yeah.
And so her and I were both released at the same time. And then I looked around and there were hundreds upon hundreds of all these other pods in this building.
Yeah.
And I exited. She came and we exited and crossed over this bridge, which for me is the bridge into the higher dimension, where we're moving. And
Yeah.
for the longest time, after this happened, when I would go back to that place, I was just kind of in a holding area there, sort
Yeah.
of. So I think what
Mhm.
was happening, it was the integration of being actually released. And then since then, like done work on myself, to try and unhook, and done work with you where we've unhooked different things, different implants, and more things that are a result of the pod.
Yes. I think we should go into all the things that are a result of, but keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Well, um, and then I think it was in a session that you and I had together where I was actually shown, it's not just one pod, it's dimensions of pods. And so the one pod, I believe the one main pod that I was released from, um, brought my consciousness out. But the way I was shown it is that there's different pods in different dimensions that hold different wounds. And so it's these core wounds that we have as humanity, right? Like the parental wound and the sexual wound and the religion wound. And so our consciousness has been split into different dimensions of pods holding these wounds. And so you can think of it as the pod as being energetic,
Mm.
but it's also very physical. It's one and the same, you
Yeah.
know? So we hold the wounds energetically, and that's where the energy comes from. But, you know, different parallels, different dimensions, different structures exist there that aren't necessarily the same as these structures. So, and
Yeah.
I believe in that session, I don't know if, because I haven't named all the wounds, but I saw 12 different layers of parallels of pods.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think you answered that so beautifully. And I think we were discussing just before we sat down, I actually someone emailed me and asked me like how does this trying to sometimes it's hard to get your head around like how did we get in there? Like
yeah,
what is the technology? How how does it actually work? It's and pose the question, is it cloning? And so I think you've gone into a really good description of trying to break it down. Um and it's through our wounding that it's what came through as you were talking was like just like when we experience a trauma and we dissociate or our consciousness can fractal and we can have like a soul aspect of us that gets stuck in
yeah,
a time where we dissociated because of a trauma and then it creates a reverberation in our energy field that then we become lessened or weakened or porous or less than because a portion of our consciousness is in operating somewhere else because of that trauma.
right.
That is the same concept, I believe, is how these pods operate. Um, it is literally plugs and connections that operate in some of our wounded areas.
Yes, yes,
I think that's one aspect of it. But the other aspect I truly believe is it's some of these how they operate and come in as we're actually incarnating into this realm.
right.
It's our spark of light and essence that is whole and unified that it's like diving into to the mother's womb. Um, does it's either in you so either that from the energetic technology that I believe is available to some of the controllers who've been running this show have been running the show can pick up a light frequency and go ooh they can read the soul blueprint and they go there's a light one that's going to like try and destroy our plans
Right,
like
right, right.
whether you call it Project Looking Glass, I think it's sort of almost beyond that type of
Yeah,
technology, but likened to just for people's understanding conceptually. But I think in utero, a lot of this happens, and I think a lot of abductions, whether that be physically or energetically, through various means, starts the process of fractaling the consciousness of the soul that then starts to then get splintered off into these parallels and the energy gets siphoned and put into pods and some of the other work that's come through is like the money matrix pods. I don't think we've spoken about like birth certificates for example born into
right,
us and it just compiles doesn't it like
right, right.
so I hope that
Yeah.
gives a better picture for because I think you and I we've been kind of trying to unpack this for us to understand
Hmm.
you know, for 12 months or more now to understand the mechanism so that we can help other people. Essentially, I believe that's part of part of this.
Well, and I also think that, and that was really well said because I agree too. I think like there's epigenetics involved in the
Mm-hmm.
wounding, but then there's also the hijacking of light. Um, and and I think I mean, obviously as consciousness advances, we're allowed to have more information about this. So like we're just picking at the pieces like, oh, this is coming together. It's like this puzzle that's just kind of all coming together and it's all very I was going to say basic, but it's not basic. But yeah, it's structural, but it's so cerebral too and energy based that it's hard to actually put the pieces. Because when I was talking about the different parallels and like you're talking about the money pots and where things exist. I mean, people who've been doing energy work and doing soul retrievals, it just came to me that, well, people have been retrieved from different layers of pods too. So it's not like you're stuck in this pod and then you're automatically in 12 different layers and 12 different pods because you're not necessarily hooked into all of those. And then if you've done work, you could have been released from some of those as well. So
Yeah.
I don't want people to think that, oh, I'm in this pod and then I'm in 12 different pods and it's going to be such a big job to be released from all of these pods. It doesn't quite,
No,
it isn't a structure like that.
I just had the biggest flash when you were
I
saying that.
saw, I
Did you
saw
see that?
that.
I was like,
Yeah, I
oh.
saw that. I'm like, what's going on there?
That's why I love connecting with you, Tony, because like more info starts to like flood
Yeah.
through. But literally, as you were talking, I think there's one progenitor pod, let's say, because I was literally seeing beings going to one, taking a portion of energy and consciousness or like DNA and then replicating it into the multi-stream. So I feel like when you get like your experience that you were saying before of like your first extraction and then
Hmm.
integration, and then you're like, oh, there's more going on. I think the cracking the first one is almost like the domino effect that you,
Yeah.
would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's how I see it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, more so. It's interesting because you'd mentioned cloning earlier and you'd had a question about cloning and maybe that person that asked that question is getting that energy of taking that DNA and the replicating of that
Yeah. Oof.
DNA. Yeah. So that's where maybe that cloning question came in because
Yeah, because there would
it's,
have to be a biological component to it. So,
yeah,
fractals of consciousness in terms of parallel realms and cloning there is a different signature to it, but it can be likened to be quite similar when if you're taking extraction of actual DNA materials or frequency, like I don't know, it's like splitting hairs, isn't it? And
yeah,
like for
yeah,
some people, there could be absolutely cloning involved. Um,
right.
and for others, it could just be an echo of replication of
Yeah,
consciousness. Yeah.
yeah,
So it really just sit into what feels right in your own experience because I don't think I think it's so vast and varied. I don't think
yeah.
one fit not necessarily one fits all, but
No, I agree with you. I agree with
mm,
you 100%. But then we were talking earlier, and I'd mentioned this to you before, or earlier this week. So I'd had a meditation because I've also seen, um, and I think you've seen it too, different energies in stasis, but I'm actually seeing physical beings in stasis. So I get the idea of, well, I've seen giants and I've seen angels and I've seen seraphim, and this energy in stasis. And what I received in meditation is that these beings that are in stasis are now being released from this their own sort of pod. And so their energy is now being released to be able to support people. And what came to me was that it's guardian energy. So we're having this guardian energy now that is supporting the consciousness that is now being allowed to be released from these pods, which is really us. So it's supporting our energy. So there's these larger, oh, I hate to use a hierarchy, but higher consciousness beings that, maybe at one point existed here that were in stasis. I don't want different topic, but you
no
know,
way. Oh yeah.
but they are actual guard. They have our best interest, and so it's guardian angel, guardian energy. Angel didn't come in. Guardian energy that came in that is supporting humanity and the rising of consciousness. So on the other side, so we're having people being released, and maybe there's some confusion or something other stuff going on. Just want people to know that there's also a guardian energy that we're being supported in this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though it's an unraveling and it's a really messy process that you and I are, you know, still going through to various degrees. It's not like and I'll make that really clear. For at least from my experience, it's not a one and done. It's like a it's a process.
It really is.
Um, but there is so much support, and I think we're tapping into so much information that is supportive, and there are beings that are supportive. So it's like, don't take this in a fear sense. Take it as it is a liberation. There is help
Yeah,
available, whether it's physical, non-physical, or both, um, to move through this. So
yeah, yeah. Well, you and I talked earlier about um, just the confusion that can be created, right? Because consciousness comes online, and if like I had this moment last summer where it was after an extraction, and like I mean I work with my people too, like you and a couple other people to help me in my process, and I had an unraveling. Like I like the words to me, like, am I going through spiritual psychosis? Is this what it is? You know, everything just felt mixed up. It was part of like, well, who am I now? And who do I think I am that this
yeah,
could be happening to me, sort of thing. So it was a lot of struggle, just trying to feel grounded in where I'm at right now. So, that's and I'm really lucky to have great people in my life that can support me through that, sort of thing. But
mm,
that is one of the things that can
yeah.
be kind of a side effect, right? That topsy-turvy energy, like what now, sort of thing. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's really important. I'm actually going to pull out my notes because I wrote a whole stack of things of like the important things of like the navigation of how this looks like and what
yeah.
comes with it and the side effects
Yeah. Yeah.
of of this. And I've seen it a lot in my work in the last 2 weeks. So I have no doubt in my mind that there is a great extraction taking place because the similarities of the unsteady, um, real shaky, real wobbly, like panic attacks and entity attacks and like you were saying, imposter syndrome, like who am I, identity
Yeah.
crisis, like completely, completely messy, like
Yeah.
it's a real messy process.
Yeah. Like I sat in my car outside of Costco thinking, like, what is like, why would I need to go into Costco, sort of thing. Like it was just, I'm out there crying, and I'm like, this huge, I don't know, it was the crashing of the perfect world, and materialism and stuff, and I'm crying and like, well, who am I to think that I know anything, and I'm going to stupid Costco. And yeah, it was a moment, let me tell you. It lasted longer than a moment, but it's
Yeah, yeah,
and unexpected, right? It's like, where did this come from?
yeah. Complete overwhelm in
Mhm.
energetic, mental, and emotional,
Yeah,
spiritual, even. Like I think
yeah,
that's part of that overwhelm. And yes, of course, the collective stuff is contributing factor, but the releasing of the pods and the energetics that are trying to rehome back
right.
to us, to here, to now, that is also in many cases of what I witnessed pulling in so much bleed through from those denser pockets of reality
Yeah,
and the gut and the non-benevolent guardians that have been overseeing, trying to keep the pods intact and make sure that everything's still running in operation. There is a lot of beings of weird entity beings. And so it's like if someone's starting to get extracted, there is a bit of a push and a pull that I've
right.
noticed that can take place. So it's um yeah, real messy, like
Yeah,
temporarily until things start to even out and stabilize. So that's where I think conscious awareness of that happening and how to work with it to support yourself is really crucial. Really,
I, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I'm thinking now what maybe we should talk about is some of we talked about like the messiness of the unplugging, but all the like the things that come along with it. Like I know we touched on that. I feel like we did that on the first video. And I'd love if your soul self wants to come through and have a chat. We can. if you feel that wants to happen, we can do that because I certainly love it. um, but it was like some of the because you mentioned before, and I was like, oh, let's double back to that, like the implants and the things that come with being in the pods that we've, I guess, discovered and uncovered along the way. Is there things off the top of your head that you could describe in terms of implants or things that you've found that have been a direct symptom of um, matrix pod um, entrapment, for lack of a better word?
Yeah. So specifically for me, and I was working with you in my last session, it was in my womb area that I had a little tape recorder that was an implant that looped, and it looped um, unworthiness. And so it was like it it captured those thoughts that you think when you're not in your best place. And so, and I'm just kind of getting a better picture of it now. So it actually was programmed to capture low frequency thoughts. And you described it like a little tape recorder. And so it would capture those low frequency thoughts and then loop them. And so, and then they show up in forms for me specifically as intrusive thoughts, those times where you're working really, really hard to
Mm-hmm.
stay positive and stuff, but those little intrusive thoughts. And I mean, I've done a lot of work around that in my and um I mean my self-worth has increased like it's uncomparable, just in the last how many years, but it was still that struggle of like why do I flow into this low energy and this old stuff kind of comes up. And then since we've removed that, it's like those thoughts don't come anymore. So that was definitely a symptom, not even a symptom. It was an implant. It was taking that vulnerable energy because your energy is already fractalized. You're not in your whole consciousness. And so it's taking that and then taking advantage of that. And I think we'd said that was an implant that was put in me maybe around 14. So right about that time when, your hormones are all over the place anyways. And then I think with being we feel people's energy, but I really feel people's energy. And so I think so many times I wasn't aware what thoughts were mine and what were somebody else's. So then I'm picking up thoughts that aren't even mine, but they're
Yeah.
catching in this loop.
Yeah,
And so I'm not only
totally.
dealing with my own thoughts, I'm dealing with the energetics of the thought forms from that I'm picking up. So,
And I think this ties into a conversation I've had just in the last 24 hours. So I will kind of throw it in there, but it's like when there's a frequency of a implant or a chip in your field that's collecting negative thought forms and looping it in your field so that you can't actually break out of that and access your higher consciousness thought that's going to help, you know, move and shift things. Well, that opens up a whole can of worms. Like, do I want to go there or not? Um, um, and maybe I will, but it's like it it's like a magnet that pulls in like things. So exactly what you're saying, you're then pulling in looping thoughts that may be atmospheric or in a partnership or family or in general public in Costco. I
mhm,
mean, could you imagine?
mhm, mhm,
And the conversations I've had a couple of times is around one, and I'm going to be very careful as I say this because I believe that we all have to do what is right for us. But pharmaceuticals, um, someone recently told me that they had a lot of intrusive thoughts and they came off pharmaceuticals for, let's say, ADHD type, you know, and all of a sudden all their intrusive thoughts went away after
mm.
coming off those medications. And
Well, Well, I was just gonna say, like, if you think about ADHD meds or antidepressants, and I am not a doctor. I'm just gonna say I'm
Yeah.
not recommending anybody do anything, but when we
Absolutely.
start not messing, but when we start altering our serotonin and our neurotransmitters, you know, in what way does that affect our brain chemistry?
Mhm.
And I'm thinking more long term, sort of thing. But I also have people in my life that have greatly benefited from.
I was about to say
Ye-
that's why I say that really cautionary because I know
Yeah,
people who, for a time being, that's really helpful for them. But I
yeah,
think it's like a long-term dependency and the implications. And the thing is, it blew my mind because I'd never really dabbled into the correlation between some medications and that they're literally amplifying a frequency that's attracting and thought form energies that's exacerbating in the field. I was like, oh yeah, of course. Like, we talk
right.
about like perhaps drugs being a portal to weaken the field or, alcohol, whatever, as
Yeah,
it, but I was like, oh, I never thought about that. Like that's a
yeah.
whole industry, and I'm not going to get on Alicia's high horse rant of how I feel about the mental health industry. Like, I'm going to leave that for a whole other video.
Yeah.
Being someone who worked in it for a long time, I can see the fundamental flaws and how it's a massive corporation. But yeah, so we'll get back to it. I don't want to digress even more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah, let's not
it,
get into standardized medical care because,
yeah,
yeah, we could
yeah.
be here a
But I want to
long
come back
time.
to saying, like, really tune into and trust what is right for you in each moment. And we are going through extreme times. So,
Yeah.
therefore, you may require X, Y, and Z for a period of time. And there's absolutely no judgment. Everyone is
No,
absolutely individual. And
no.
we all have our vices to some
Yeah.
degree, as I raise my coffee cup. Um,
Well, and I had somebody say to me once, which really left an impact on me because I don't like to take pharmaceuticals, and when I was prescribed something, I'm like, oh, and like it was for my thyroid. It was pretty serious stuff, and they're just like, so okay, you're willing to die then? And I'm like, no. Well, then take the down pharmaceutical because this is your option right now. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, very good point. Yeah. I don't want to die. I don't want to unalive. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And like that takes me back to it, it's exactly 12 months now as we record this that I was hospitalized. And that, so, I'm so, kind of anti any sort of medication. I have been ever since a child. um, because of incidences that have happened since I was like I was tried to be put on like antidepressant meds as a child for absolutely no reason at all. So
Oh,
as a young child, I was like, hang on, something's not right here.
right.
Like I came in for a cold and you're asking me
Right.
if you want to unalive myself and you want to ram medication down my throat. I was just trying
Right.
to get a medical certificate because I didn't want to go to school. Like
Right.
so at that age, I think I must have been 13, 14. I started digging in the little resources that we had because, it's not like what we have now in terms of,
No.
and I realized that just in Australia alone, so that would have been in around just before 2000s, probably talking about 98, 99-ish. Don't quote me on this. But in Australia, when I did, and I actually did an assignment in my school, because we got a thing that we had to do about, I think it was about drugs. It was like health subject. And I got on my high horse back then. I was like, did you know that in Australia, in the last 12 months, the prescription of antidepressants has gone up and increased from 1 million to 5 million in 1 year? I'm like, you can't tell
Wow.
me that that's not like something
Wow.
fishy is going on here.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, for
Anyway,
sure.
um, but it was because I'd had that experience and I was
Yeah.
like, something seems off with that. And then obviously we know the funding that comes through all that. Anyway, digress. Let's I had a feeling I was gonna digress, but I want to go back to these intrusive implants that do, tape recorder, and they do. I've seen a lot that are connected into the sacral, especially.
Yeah,
Um, plugs, cords, connected to matrices, connected to moon. I've even seen that like amplify women's cycles,
right,
that
right,
create all sorts of chaotic, either emotional or physical disturbance. Severing them cleans it up in miraculous ways. It blows my mind.
right,
Um, but it's like once we can have some of those things in our field and system, it really, so I don't know. I am digressing and I do apologize, but this is like burning my head. I went through an incident, a handful of years ago. It was a very dark time for me on a personal level. And I was dealing with someone who I truly, truly care about. And there was really dark entity attachments that I didn't put language around at the time. I didn't feel, when you kind of like, it doesn't feel right and you can just change the language a
yeah,
little bit,
yeah,
but it was, and I realized that it had penetrated my field to the point where I actually couldn't hear my own thoughts. I was just in exactly I was enshrouded in this loop of negative, looping thoughts about me, about the other person, that it's like I couldn't access my usual higher self
right,
perspective or
right,
insights to help navigate me through that. So it's
right.
really an intrusive sort of interference energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
remember doing one session on the sacral. That's why I was like, and the stuff that I was pulling out was, um because let's face it, the sacral is one of the most hijacked points. The sacral, the mind, and I've never had this, but it was like, let me preface, this wasn't just a normal client session. This was someone who's very close to me. So I think it
Right.
had a bigger, stronger impact. But I actually took myself into the forest afterwards because I was like, that was like, I was reveling in like, that was the most intense thing I've ever come across, at that point. I'm talking
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
5+ years ago. And I actually ran through the forest and I started vomiting black.
Wow. Wow. Holy.
And that was the second
Wow.
time in my life that's happened. The first time was all, it was my own healing process.
Right.
This was directly related to what I'd cleared through someone else's sacral at that time. And as soon as I had, sorry, being so graphic,
No?
as soon as that came up, I literally heard my higher self drop back in and go,
Oh,
now ask this question, now do this, now do that.
right.
Then allowed me to navigate myself. Whereas I probably for 6 months, I was in this spinning, I couldn't get clear. So
And that's a long time,
that's a long time to,
because then like because we're creator beings, right? So it's really impacting what you're creating going forward. And then so not only do you
totally.
have to you're going through that, but then you have to deal with the aftermath of those creations still after that.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I've seen with some of the, and jump in because I'd love any insights that you've unpacked and discovered. But there are specific implants that I've seen in the sacral, but in other areas that their whole main objective, and as you mentioned in the last video, the whole main objective of the pods and being hooked up is to keep you off your path and your higher timeline
Yeah.
and your creator abilities.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
But a lot of the like specific implants that are literally to create a static in the field so that you're not, this beautiful phase came in before we started recording and it was like the pods and the energy and all what we're talking about that encompasses the entire thing is literally the glass ceiling that you can't see that is standing between you and your destiny.
Wow. Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Well, and I just in case people aren't aware, but just for our own awareness is it's that lower frequency that is what's being fed off, right? And that's the reason why it's being created.
yeah,
And you can't limit people when they're in their higher frequency.
no,
So, that's um yeah, the whole purpose of it. It's feeding a system of lower frequency to be able to continue to operate in that lower frequency because the higher frequency doesn't feed that
mm,
structure.
no, no. And thank you for, yeah, bringing that up. Is like, that's the ultimate objective of what we're working towards and creating this video for. And it's like, we want to unhook ourselves so that we can be in our natural freaking frequency,
Yeah, yeah.
do what we're
And
here to be and become. And
and live our destinies, right? And because I heard a great quote once that, you know, fate is what happens to us when we just allow it, and destiny is what our intentions create, and I just thought, oh, okay, I feel that, I get that. Like, fate can happen to anybody,
yeah,
it's we're in that more whole state where we can set the intention, even if we don't know. I don't know what my destiny is. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, but just to be in that state to be able to achieve whatever it is. Well, actually, for me, my destiny that there isn't it's just to be, in that higher,
Mm,
exist in that higher frequency. The other stuff that happens is just a bonus, but to be able to live and to exist in that
yeah.
highest state possible, So,
Because yeah, everything that comes from there's a ripple effect of that, isn't it? So it's
yeah,
like when you're in that, it's like whatever you choose to be, experience, create is a ripple. And
yeah,
I hold that vision really strongly right now of like everyone who's perhaps watching this or impacted, and the domino, the positive ripple of people being liberated and freed, and the amount of creative collective consciousness frequency of the higher aspect just flooding into individuals and into the planet, and like just how quickly this process can reshape reality essentially.
yeah, yeah.
And that's why most of us came, and that's why most of us got entrapped in these systems.
That's
and now
right.
it, and now
That's
it's
right.
the great extraction. But
That's right.
um I'm just I'm having a look at my notes. I think we've covered most things, but d- I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you feel like your soul
Yeah,
like
yeah,
wants to, is there anything that she wants to share?
yeah. I feel like you have some questions, maybe that.
I will always have.
Yeah. Okay, okay, let's do this. Okay, okay, let's go.
All right, well, open it. I feel like we're opening up the space now, and I'm just kind of maybe going into some of the information that has recently come through about the great extraction in the 12-month three-part phase. Is there any additional information that wishes to be shared around this 12-month extraction three-part phrase, or even the guardian frequencies that are coming through that wish to help?
Just when you speak of the 12 months, just, the biggest message is that there is such joy around this, that we're at this stage, at this point, at this frequency level, that there's the allowance to be this big extraction. So anything that was discussed that created fear in anybody, that because it can sound dark and it can sound like, oh, this is so much work, but really, um, there is such an energy and a frequency of joy around this that any fear should be replaced with this joy
Mm,
frequency. And it's just like, 10 years ago, moving through healing processes, it felt like it was slogging it out, like it was hard to release this. But as we move forward, as more people move forward, as there's more release, it isn't the same process. It gets less
mm,
encumbrant, it gets less intrusive, it gets less painful, it gets less fearful, it gets less convoluted, and the process begins to flow in a more smooth manner. So just remember
mm.
to be able to sink into that frequency of joy
Yeah.
and freedom and liberation.
Oof, I love that. And thank you. I really appreciate that. That hit me as soon as you said it. It brought up a lot of emotion, of truth. Is there any recommendations of what people can do to be in that frequency of joy and freedom and liberation they can do as part of their practice or focus or intention? Is there anything people can do at home?
If people have a meditation practice, um, meditation, silencing the mind, because that's what calms the nervous system to allow for your body to be able to relax, to absorb the information that is coming through, because we all have this innate wisdom, this innate knowing. And so meditation is a great practice, but there's different forms of meditation. So if you find something cathartic that you like to do that takes you out of your thoughts and your mind, think of that as a meditation process. Um, you know, and sometimes it feels like you're being beat with a stick when you keep hearing nature, 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 but really there is so much healing in nature. And not everybody has the opportunity to visit the water, and not everybody has the opportunity to walk through a forest barefoot, but there is always opportunity to be outside and put your feet on the ground and to be able to silence yourself enough to be able to feel the frequency of the earth, because there is so much light that's being poured onto the planet that is being absorbed in the earth that is available for you to be able to absorb. So if you don't have a meditation practice, it's something to consider, but just know that trying to get outside and experience nature and feel the frequency of what is available to you, that always brings more.
Mm, beautiful. Beautifully said. Thank you so much. Thank you. Is there any information, but this is like a sideball question, but is there any information around counterpart connections and pods and extraction and how that may influence or impact soul connections and relationships from the past and what it may look like moving forward?
So, as it, because the majority of the population is in pods, you are in a pod with your counterpart. Um, and so the release of one counterpart from a pod facilitates the beginning of the release of another counterpart. But you have to remember, you can never do the work of somebody else. But the releasing of the pod allows for the energy to be able to expand in both parties, to be able to create a different, higher perspective relationship. In terms of what it does to past relationships, it moving out of the pods means that you get to unhook the old cords, attachments, um, energetic frequency vibration of past partners that you may have had. If you're carrying that frequency, it just allows the release, for because you're releasing so much really of the past, and it's like a rebirth. So you have to remember that you're rebirthing a new energy that allows for old frequencies to be able to fall away and to allow a greater relational aspect with your counterpart.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you.
I just want to add to that, that relationships might also feel like a lot of work going through this process to
Yeah.
be able to go through that. So there's a lot of patience
Mm,
involved in the work that you need to do inside your relationship, because our relationship, our counterpart, is always our mirror. So
mm,
that's a something to remember also, that if you're seeing something inside your counterpart that is triggering you, it's a good reminder to say what in me is reflecting this back to me.
yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Um, I have so many questions around that, and you're just validating everything because my body's reacting to all the information you're sharing. So thank you. It is the pods and the like the pod slash SSP in those specific pods, is that probably the greatest obstacle or block or interference that has been keeping the relationships of a high vibration in either separation or in conflict? And is that changing with this 12-month extraction process?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Because
Mm. Isn't that interesting? Hang on. Just going to pause for a second.
your energy field. So these
Back, everyone, and I do apologize for that little glitch. So we'll let Cindy get back into the zone. We were just kind of laughing at the timing of the interference technology glitch. So we'll go back, and I'm going to re-ask the question if I can remember it correctly. But just around, is these pods and SSP related connection to some of the pods being the greatest um, disruptor in high frequency relationships previously? And as we go through this extraction, is it going to change the nature of relationships moving forward over the next sort of 12-month period?
okay, so the biggest thing to understand is that these matrix pods have been the biggest reason for all of the low frequency.
Mm,
So, yes, absolutely, the release of the energy, allowing people's energy to feel free to tap into their own natural source, their own natural being, their own frequency, absolutely will shift every single relationship. The relationship with yourself, which is the most important relationship. So once you shift the relationship with yourself, all of your other relationships transform.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, thank you. I do have one or two other questions if that's okay.
sure.
As we're going through this 12-month extraction phase, it's kind of a two-pronged question. First of all, will that change the way incoming souls won't get caught in this matrix web? Is that pathing the way for that? And also, what can you share about what you see from that joy of what it looks like as so many souls get released from an individual perspective, maybe a global perspective?
So already souls are coming in, new souls are coming in, not being as attached to the energy. So that will definitely, as this year progresses and as it progresses, a more pure energy is allowed to be able to form.
Mm,
And so, yeah, absolutely. I almost want to take us back a little bit further to know that, consciousness has been increasing exponentially in the past, definitely 10 years. And so the souls that are coming in already in these 10 years are a different soul than that came in, 15 anytime previous to that. So yeah, absolutely. This in the next year, I hate to use the word purification because that then insinuates that you're not pure or another person isn't pure, but it isn't that. It is just not coming in with all of the same wounding that you as a soul agreed to come into this earth and experience. So don't, there has to be that caveat that everybody chose this. Whether you came in and this is what happened, you took into the pods. On the other side, you have to know that you chose this. You came in with 100% awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, souls are coming in knowing that they're coming in at a higher frequency. And can you repeat the second part of the question?
Yeah, just what it might look like individually and collectively as we more and more are being extracted out and becoming free and liberated. What implications can we expect to look forward to on a personal or collective level?
Well, really, on a personal level, when you experience more joy, because we're creator beings, you're creating more joy. So the people that come into your field will be at that frequency. There's always going to be different levels of frequency because as a collective, we create a fabric of different levels. But as a frequency rises, and I'm just going to speak personally, you begin to experience more joy. You call in more joy, you create more joy, and that then becomes your experience.
Mm.
And joy is kind of being used as a blanket term, but inside that, there is more freedom, there is more liberation, and there's peace and happiness. And as you begin to embody more of that frequency, your body, embody, your body begins to also respond in different ways. So, you know, that means better health. That means all sorts of, um, hate to use just again, a blanket term, just the word positive, but it's
Mm.
just imagine the biggest outcome, the
Yeah.
biggest
Oh.
joyful, happiest outcome that you can imagine.
Mm.
You get to experience that.
Mm. Would that coincide with the message I've been getting recently as this podcast is like now you get to embody and walk through the life that you've been so diligently working towards because that's your ultimate destiny? Is that, am I right in feeling into that phrase or, those words that come through? Is that what we're on the precipice of, both personally and collectively?
Yeah, we definitely are on the precipice of that. And with that, as that comes along, the waiting energy that so many people are in, that waiting of what's next, what next, that
Mm.
waiting energy finally gets to dissipate, and it's living in peace instead of the anxiety and the nervousness and the, okay, well, I just have to do this. Because
Mm.
as much as we like to say that right now, like that, you should accept exactly who you are, we still are living in a sense of that waiting period. So
Yeah.
yeah, living in that destiny with just
Yeah.
contentment and peace.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anything else that you feel is, I think that's all my questions for now. Is there anything that you see from your vantage point that's important that should be shared around this topic that could be helpful?
Um, this process can lead you to feel that you are alone and isolated, and can leave a sense, it's not desolation, but you have to understand that energies have been trapped in these pods for so long, and we get used to our environments. So there is a disruption to your field, and just always remember that you are supported. You have supports, reach out to those supports, but try and remember your internal supports, the world that you've created for yourself that supports you, that holds you,
Yeah.
to be able to integrate into your new home.
Mm. Oh, that's powerful. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm, thank you.
Wow.
I'm going to come back.
Wow. thank you so much. That
Mm.
I don't know, that hit me in some ways. So I
Mm.
really appreciate your beautiful soul,
Oh,
your
Alisha,
beautiful
thank you.
human to share that and bring that through just with the energy of it too. It's like, mm,
Well, thanks for creating the space to
mm,
just feel so safe to be able to allow that to flow.
mm. Do you think it's time now to finish off just with a quick few minute process? It's
Yeah.
kind of like a so for everyone who's watching and I mean tune in or help me amplify the energies. This is a bit of an impromptu one, but this is what I was my high my higher self gave me the marching order. Because it's like people might go from all this information, like, okay, well, where do I start? Well, this is a starting point of
Yeah.
a quick guided intention energy process to start to unhook. Um,
Yeah.
so just inviting everyone now to maybe stop what they're doing if they're in the middle of doing like things like driving or operating machinery
Yeah.
or even doing the dishes. If you can just stop for these few moments and
Mhm.
sit, lie, relax, get comfortable, and just inviting you all now to come into conscious connection. And if it feels good for you, just to close your eyes and just tune in to the innocence of your breath, your body, and your energy field. And as we start this process, just inviting you now to connect consciously with your inhale. And as you breathe in, allowing your connection with your highest levels of consciousness, your soul frequency, to start to come in and around to help co facilitate and create a beautiful sphere or column of light in and around your body. And through each inhale, just allowing that to come in and amplify. And as you exhale, giving yourself the opportunity to let go of any looping thoughts, any excess energy, any discomfort, any distractions, just to allow you to come in deeper, deepening into the present moment of now. And as this process takes place, as you connect with that sacred breath, I'm going to set the intention now that we're going through a process of unhooking, disconnecting, and unraveling, extracting your energy and consciousness out of any and all matrix pods that are ready to be freed or liberated from, to hone back your consciousness back into the present moment in its pure, pristine condition. And as we do this now, inviting a spiral of light and frequency in its pure, most powerful quotation of light, like a spiral or a disc that comes in and around, starting from the top of the head. And what this spiral or rotating disc does is it connects into your organic system of your energy column. It's a funnel that can connect and draw back your soul frequency back into the body. And as it goes about doing that, it in the rotation starts to cut away and facilitate the process of disconnecting and unplugging cords, attachments, implants, or frequencies, interference, anything that's not of your original quote, rotation of light or soul essence, and just allowing it to spin and spiral in and down, 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 down. as you use your body as the barometer to feel into the nuances of discomfort or awarenesses, and working with this process to gently unplug, disconnect anything that may be ready and primed and loosened to release. As it starts to move down over the head, those mental plugs and programs, down over the face and through the inner eye, the physical eyes, the ears, down, dropping, spinning quite quickly, but also knowing that you can go at a pace that is perfect for you and redo this at any time that feels good for you, and elaborating, but just bringing it over the neck, the shoulders, the throat, the back of the occipital lobe area, the back of the neck. And as this clearing takes place, feeling the lightness of your soul energy and higher consciousness starting to come through as a tandem process, bringing it down, cutting away in and around the shoulder blades, the upper chest and back, the arms coming into the high heart and the heart. Still working with your breath. Feeling into your heart, taking a deep breath and allowing the light and energy, the joy, the frequency of love, of freedom, of liberation to spark in there and expand as it slowly starts to move down in and around the stomach, the solar plexus, giving that a deep clearing and flush through and disconnect. Going deeper down in and around the lower extremities, the lower abdomen, sacral, that co-creative life force energy. Digging deeper and allowing to drop down into, right down into the root, the base. Feeling like breaking out of a shell that may have been synthetic or inorganic, coming back into purity, and this process of feeling rebirth of your own creative consciousness as it drops down through your legs, out through the soles of your feet, and drops down in and grounds you, anchors you, feeling it spin in and around, just allowing just for a few moments now, just the downpouring of new energy of your light and crystalline frequency or diamond ray frequency coming in. Feeling the lightness, the brightness, the gentle awarenesses as you slowly and gently start to come back into present day, knowing, back into the here and now, and just taking your time, opening your eyes. Ooh,
Mhm.
thank you. Coming back. I hope that's helpful for everyone watching.
Well, I can tell you, I saw people coming out of pods. So,
Yeah, I felt that. That was,
yeah.
and as I'll just say this as a final, as we wrapped up and I looked at the clock, it cast on 1:44. Yeah.
Oh,
So I was like, that was timely. That was
oh, that was timing. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And on different, because we've talked before about pods being in different places. And so, yeah, not just like in different locations. And
yeah,
yeah, I saw extractions there. So
yeah, it's happening. It's
super cool.
interesting. Mm,
It's amazing.
Thank you so much, Cindy, for sharing this space and the work that I feel is amplified through our connection. Really
Yeah, it
appreciate
really is. Thank you. Yeah, it, it's fun. You know what I mean? Like it's just so good. Oh, yeah, thank you.
it. It's that feeling when you do what you know you're here to do, and it's like, yeah, let's
Yeah,
bring
yeah,
it. All right.
yeah,
Well, thank you once again. Thank you everyone for watching. If you'd like to
yeah.
connect with Cindy or myself, all the details will be in the description box below. And keep an eye out for our upcoming collaboration as that unfolds. So keep doing the great work, everyone. You know, we are well primed and equipped to do this. That's why we came here.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Much love and thanks everyone. Have a great Easter weekend if you're celebrating
Mhm.
and connect with everyone soon. So
Yeah,
happy
thanks.
rebirth.
Bye.
Bye.